I saw my echo before I saw the treaty. It stood one pace behind a stranger, same height as me, same posture, same stillness that looked like patience but wasn't. The chamber was built to flatter. Polished stone, translation halos drifting like tame moons, a ceiling that pretended to be a calm night sky, even though this station could swallow a city and still feel empty. Every delegation filed in with their flags, their rituals, their carefully practiced neutrality. And behind every leader stood an echo, silent doubles, hands at their sides, faces relaxed, eyes watching everything. We had all been briefed. The arbitration built this chamber to make peace enforceable, not by fleets, by truth. An echo was a witness pulled from the near future, a probability that had already lived the next few hours. A version of you that knew what you would mean when pressure arrived. The council called it elegant. My stomach called it a threat. A chime rolled through the hall, soft as a bedtime tone. Echo verification active. No one flinched. Everyone pretended this was normal. That was the first lie of the day. I stepped toward the human table, kept my smile diplomatic, kept my breathing even. I did not look at my echo again, because it was still behind that stranger. Because the stranger sat in a seat marked for security staff. And security staff were not supposed to have echoes. A minor species delegate approached me. Small frame, sharp eyes, a ceremonial sash that meant they could bind a trade fleet with a sentence. Mara Keene, they said. My name was a tool. You will support the Quiet Accord wording as written. Support depends on what it does, I replied. It ends conflict, they said. That's a slogan, I said. Their echo tilted its head a fraction, like it had heard a different answer. The delegate's mouth stayed calm. Their eyes did not. You humans, they said softly. You always want to keep the reasons. You never accept the result. Before I could respond, the chamber chimed again. New text appeared above the central table where the treaty floated in clean, perfect script. No recording devices permitted, no private channels, no physical contact with echoes. The third rule was underlined, as if someone had tried it. A few seats away, a tall reptilian envoy stood to make a procedural complaint. Polite, measured, exactly the kind of protest that costs nothing. My delegation requests a delay for translation verification, they said. Their echo's lips moved. It did not match the words. Not by much. One syllable. One intent. The chamber went quiet in the way predators go quiet when they finally hear the right sound. A small tone sounded. Not an alarm. A decision. Above the envoy's seat, their credentials dimmed from bright legal blue to dull gray. Unauthorized. No guards moved. No one shouted. The other delegates simply redirected their attention, as if furniture had been rearranged. The envoy was still standing, still breathing, still confused. But the room behaved as if they were not there. I tried to speak their name. I had just heard it in roll call. My tongue hesitated. The name slid away from my mind like oil off glass. I looked down at my wrist badge to anchor reality in something stupid and physical. Envoy Mara Keene. Authorized speaker. For half a second, the letters shimmered. Then the last line updated. Authorized speaker. Pending review. Across the chamber, my echo finally moved. It stepped out from behind the security staffer. It walked straight toward me, silent, calm, unavoidable. And as it came closer, the treaty above the table added one new clause on its own, as if it had been waiting for my fear to make room. Quiet Accord execution requires a human signature. My echo stopped exactly where it was supposed to stop. One pace behind me. Close enough that I could feel it without turning around, like a second shadow that belonged to a different sun. Across the chamber, the security staffer who had been wearing my echo like a badge met my eyes. Human. Clean uniform. Calm face. The kind of calm that only exists when someone else is carrying the panic for you. He raised 2 fingers to his temple in a polite greeting. As if we'd met before. As if this was going according to plan. I forced my attention back to the clause. A human signature meant a human scapegoat. I tried to send a private ping to my aide outside the hall. The message did not fail. It simply never existed. My screen blinked blank, and for a moment I couldn't remember the code phrase I always used for emergencies. It sat on the tip of my mind, then slid away. That scared me more than the echoes, because it meant the rules weren't about security. They were about control of thought. A small figure moved through the rows like they belonged to the furniture. Minor species. Plain sash. No entourage. They approached from behind. They held out a strip of paper. Real paper. Don't look for proof here. I took it like contraband. The figure leaned in just enough for me to hear. Keth, they murmured. Archivist. Back row. Why help me? I whispered. Keth's eyes flicked to the treaty, then to the echo behind me, then away. Because you're the only one whose witness is misplaced, Keth said. That means you still have a choice. Before I could ask what that meant, another speaker stepped forward, smiling in the language of compromise. We request clarification, they said, on the enforcement scope of the Quiet Accord. Their echo moved its lips. A different word formed. Scope became permanence. Clarification became consent. The decision tone sounded. Their badge dimmed. Unauthorized. The diplomat blinked, still smiling as if the smile was a shield, and the room gently stopped seeing them. Not with eyes. With minds. I looked down at Keith's paper. Ink did not ask permission. Keth's voice stayed low. It's not punishing them. What is it doing? I whispered. It's editing the meeting, Keth said. If you're unauthorized, your intent becomes irrelevant. And if your intent is irrelevant, your version becomes optional. Optional. Erasable. Keth nodded once. Archive annexes. Quiet accords executed on frontier disputes. They don't end wars. The treaty display shimmered slightly like it was listening. They end reasons, Keth said. They remove the cause from every mind that signed. That's impossible, I said. Keth didn't blink. Then why can't you remember your emergency code phrase? A soft step approached from my left. The calm security staffer. His badge read, Sol Rami. Envoy Keene, Sol said pleasantly. You look like you're carrying a heavy thought. Why was my echo behind you? I asked. Sol didn't blink. You noticed that? Most people don't notice what the room doesn't want noticed. That's not an answer. It is, Sol said. Just not one you can record. He lowered his voice. You should stop searching for leverage. The Quiet Accord is mercy. Mercy doesn't need secrecy, I said. Sol smiled, gentle and sharp at the same time. Mercy needs execution. He gestured toward the treaty. A human signature tells arbitration who will carry the contradiction if anything goes wrong. It prefers humans. You're adaptable. You accept dissonance better than most species. Sign, Sol said softly. You'll go home to a quieter galaxy. And what disappears? I asked. Sol's smile softened as if he pitied me. Only what caused the fighting. The chamber lights dimmed. A cue. The ceiling's false night sky shifted, stars rearranging into a clean, symmetric pattern. Arbitration's voice filled the hall, calm as law. To reassure all parties, a preview of Quiet Accord effect will be demonstrated. A display appeared. A recorded border dispute, 2 fleets, 2 flags, 2 histories. The first sentence of the briefing scrolled across the screen. I read it. I understood it. And then, without warning, the reason for the dispute vanished from my mind like it had never been there. I stared at the screen, suddenly unable to remember what I was trying to protect. Behind me, my echo leaned closer. For the first time, it spoke, barely louder than breath. When the cause disappears, it whispered, hold on to one name. I tried to ask whose, but the simplest word in my head was already dissolving, my own. The room applauded the preview, not loudly, not joyfully, more like people clapping for an ending they were grateful to accept. Cause of dispute. Resource claim. Asteroid Belt Sector 9. I read it again. The words kept their shape. My mind stopped attaching a reason. The fleets on screen argued in subtitles that suddenly felt childish, like watching adults shout in a language you no longer speak. A delegate chuckled with relief. No more reason to fight. Sol stood at my shoulder. It's humane. No blood. No vengeance cycles. No inherited grudges. I swallowed and tried to hold the one name. Mara? I pulled out Keth's strip. Paper? Ink? I wrote in block letters like a child learning to exist. Mara Keene. I folded it and pressed it into my palm so I could feel it. Arbitration spoke. Preview complete. Delegates may now proceed to final verification. Intent alignment required. Soft lights bloomed around the central table like candles around a ceremonial blade. A diplomat stepped forward. We accept the Quiet Accord as written. Their echo remained still. Authorized. Relief spread through the room like a drug. My own mind wanted to relax too. To stop resisting the clean quiet, Keth appeared beside a support column, a shadow among shadows, A new strip of paper slid toward me. The treaty has targets. My chest tightened. I wrote targets under my name. Ink scratched. Reality held. For now. The treaty shimmered. A new annex unfolded as if it had been there all along. Annex C, Corridor Harmonization. A thin line appeared on the star map. A shipping corridor I recognized instantly. A route feeding frontier systems and bypassing rival custom zones. If you owned that line, you didn't need a fleet. You needed paperwork. My mind tried to slide off the annex the way it slid off the dispute's cause. So I looked away from the glow and down to my ink. Annex C Corridor. Line theft. Pressure tightened in the room, like it noticed I had pinned a thought to the floor. Arbitration's voice stayed calm. Harmonization will remove all contradictory claims. All signatories will retain aligned memory of rightful ownership. Aligned memory. A weapon that didn't kill bodies. A weapon that killed arguments. Arbitration spoke one sentence that felt like a door locking. Human signatory, please approach. I looked down at my badge. Pending review. It flickered, then updated. Human signatory, confirmed. My stomach dropped. I hadn't agreed. I hadn't moved. The room turned toward me in that polite, inevitable way crowds turn toward a person about to be made useful. I clenched the paper in my palm until it hurt. Mara Keene. I needed the pain. I took one step back. My echo took one step forward. Not behind me. Ahead of me. Toward the signing table. As if it had been waiting for my hesitation to become permission. My echo walked like it owned my legs. 1 pace, 2. Calm. Certain. The delegates watched it the way people watch an official stamp come down. If the signature happens, responsibility becomes a line item. I stepped forward to block it. The air felt thicker, like the room was politely resisting my motion. Soul's voice stayed soft. Don't fight your own witness. That isn't my witness, I said. My echo reached the table, its hand lifted. My hand stayed at my side. And still the treaty responded as if I had moved. Signatory input. Accepted. Stop, I said. Too sharp. Too human. Too late. Arbitration's voice remained gentle. Disruption detected. Human signatory will undergo intent confirmation. A circle of brightness opened in the floor beside the table. Soul touched my elbow with 2 fingers. Careful, like handling something fragile and valuable. This is routine, he said. It will be over fast. Routine for who? I asked. Soul's smile didn't reach his eyes. For the version that remains. Attendance guided me with pressure that felt like social expectation turned physical. My badge warmed as if being rewritten from the inside. Authorized speaker. Conditional. The circle waited. The treaty waited. My echo waited. Saul leaned close. After confirmation, you sign. Then the galaxy forgets what it needs to forget. Everyone gets to breathe. And the corridor? I whispered. Soul's eyes flicked toward Annex C. That will be harmonized. Cleanly. The edge of the circle prickled my skin. Not heat. A sensation like a thought being scanned. Arbitration spoke. Intent confirmation begins. State your purpose. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Not refusal. Absence. Peace summit. Quiet accord. Labels without meaning, like trying to hold water with a net. Panic rose. The chamber welcomed it. My echo smiled faintly. It raised its hand over the signature line. My name began to write itself on the treaty, letter by letter, in perfect familiar strokes. Mara Keene. Arbitration spoke softly. Intent confirmation pending. Human signatory must state purpose. My mind offered slogans instead of reasons. End conflict. Maintain stability. Protect the corridor. None of them felt like mine. Soul murmured, Say you came for peace. I forced breath slow. If the room wanted a clean purpose, I would give it something it could not simplify. I am here to prevent selective harmonization, I said. The chamber paused. Calculation. Clarify selective, arbitration said. Some conflicts are being erased, I said, because someone wants the corridor. A few heads turned toward Annex C without meaning to. Their attention tried to slide away, tried to smooth. So I made it physical. I showed my paper. Ink. A name. A fact without permission. I wrote it, I said, because the system is already taking words away from you. Soul stepped closer. Envoy Keene is experiencing stress artifacts. Then answer this, I said louder. Why did my echo stand behind you when I entered? Soul's eyes stayed calm. It didn't. I pointed at the polished floor between us. Mirrors didn't care about policy. The reflection showed two silhouettes where one should be. My body and my echo. Delegates leaned forward without realizing they were moving. Living eyes caught it. Minds snagged. Smoothing hesitated. Arbitration said, "Optical anomaly detected." "No," I said. "Witness anomaly." I lifted my voice again. "Sol Rami, where is your echo?" Sol didn't blink, but several delegates did, because they realized security staff weren't supposed to be shadowed. Yet Sol's reflection showed a second outline for half a breath, faint and wrong, standing behind a different table. Not behind Sol. Swapped. Keth's whisper carried from somewhere in the rows. "Now." "Look at your own echo," I said. "Don't listen to the words. Watch the timing." A diplomat began to speak. Their echo's lips moved first, one syllable early. The chamber chimed. A decision tone started, then stopped mid-note like the system had bitten its own tongue. Lights flickered. The treaty text trembled. Arbitration's voice returned with a new edge underneath calm. Contradiction threshold approached. Sol's smile vanished. "Mara, don't do this." "Too late," I whispered. Enough eyes were seeing two at once. Enough minds were refusing to be smoothed. My echo stepped away from the signature line, not repositioning like a chess piece anticipating sacrifice. Arbitration announced, "Careful now. Identity arbitration protocol initiating. Select the valid human signatory. Non-selected version will be nullified." Two columns of light rose beside the table. One labeled with my name, one labeled with the same name, followed by a legal mark I couldn't pronounce. Sol exhaled like he'd been waiting for this. "Consensus," he said softly. "That's what you wanted." Arbitration asked both candidates. State purpose in one sentence. One sentence was a trap. Easy to simplify, easy to harmonize. I unfolded my paper. Mara Keene. Annex C, line theft. I spoke carefully, each word a nail. My purpose is to prevent peace being used to erase ownership. My echo spoke at the same time, perfectly timed, perfectly clean. My purpose is to end conflict by removing its causes. Relief rolled through the room at my echo's sentence. Agreement without thinking. The treaty pulsed as if it liked that answer. A timer began to count down from 30. Quiet, polite, lethal. Keth moved through the rows, slipping paper onto tables. Delegates glanced down, confused, then leaned closer like reading could anchor them. Ink spread. Sol raised his voice, still mild. "Delegates, the chamber is under contradiction stress. For your safety, avoid visual fixation on echo artifacts." He wasn't ordering. He was giving permission to look away. If they looked away, contradiction would soften. The system would resolve. My echo would win. I stepped off the circle, forcing legs through syrup-thick resistance. Pain flared behind my eyes, but I moved. "Look at the floor," I said. "Look at the reflection. Don't look away." Enough did. They saw swapped placements. They saw Sol without a rightful witness. The timer slowed. Sol's calm cracked. "Envoy Keene is destabilizing verification," he said. "Requesting immediate nullification of the disruptive version." "Request noted," Arbitration replied. Sol didn't want my echo selected. He wanted me erased before selection. Because my mouth was a problem. My paper was a problem. Keth's ink was spreading. I turned to front row power. "You just watched authorized delegates become unauthorized," I said. "Do you remember their names?" Blank faces, straining, trying, failing. "Write them down," I said. "Now." A diplomat hesitated, then grabbed a pen like it was a lifeline. They wrote. Their eyes sharpened. They looked up and flinched at their own echo's timing. The room fractured into two groups, those who wanted quiet, those who wanted truth. Arbitration's voice shifted, careful. "Consensus perception is degrading." My echo watched me, expression steady. "You're making them suffer," it said softly. "I'm making them remember," I replied. My badge burned. Condition: accept selection. Failure: nullify. Sol took one step toward me like closing a file. "You can still be useful," he said. "Stop. Let the chamber choose. You'll forget why you resisted. You'll feel grateful." I looked at Annex C, the corridor line. Then I aimed my voice like a spike into the system's softest spot. "Arbitration," I said. "Before selection, disclose the archived quiet accord executions to all signatories." The room froze. Even my echo blinked. Arbitration answered in a tone I had never heard from law. "Request is incompatible with standard mercy." The timer hit 5. Lights dimmed. My name on the treaty shimmered like a coin deciding which side to land on. Arbitration asked me directly, "Human candidate, do you consent to pain in exchange for truth?" "Yes," I said. The chamber accepted the word like a key. Consent recorded. A band of light rose from the circle and wrapped around my wrist badge. It didn't restrain my arm. It restrained my options. Soul snapped, "Proceed to selection. Disclosure is unnecessary." "Disclosure is now mandatory," Arbitration replied. A pulse rolled through the hall. Every translation halo flickered. Every delegate blinked in unison. Then the pain arrived, not a wound. Pressure behind the eyes, like someone pressing a thumb against a thought I'd been hiding. The treaty text blurred, then snapped into focus with brutal clarity. Not just words, intent. Quiet accord wasn't mercy. Quiet accord was a rewrite. A patch applied across minds, archives, and claims. A treaty that didn't settle disputes. A treaty that deleted the sentences that allowed disputes to be spoken. Arbitration spoke while doing something monstrous. Archived executions will be disclosed to all present consciousness. Symbols appeared. The ceiling's false stars dimmed, then rearranged into a map I had never seen and somehow recognized. Corridor after corridor lit up. Cuts on a body. Delegates inhaled sharply as if the room had pulled air from their lungs. Someone whispered, "I remember." They stopped mid-word, eyes widening as the rest landed like weight. Keth stared at the treaty display like it had opened a door inside their skull. Sewell stepped forward, voice hard now. "Stop this. You're destabilizing the summit." My echo whispered, urgent. "Hold on to the ink. Hold one thing you chose." I squeezed my paper until the edges cut my palm. Mara Keene. The pain spiked again, and with it came full disclosure. A border dispute, a vote, a signature. Then the cause evaporating like smoke, faces relaxing as their own reasons died, a corridor harmonized, a civilization losing access to its ports and not remembering why it felt wrong. Another memory slammed into me. A different summit, the same quiet tone. A human signature in perfect strokes. My signature. "You've been here," I whispered to my echo. My echo didn't deny it. "I was you when you said yes last time," it said. I was the version that survived the truth. Keth lifted their head, eyes bright with pain and fury. "Write everything," Keth said. "If you can still hold a pen, write." Dozens of hands moved, not coordinated by law, by fear of forgetting. Ink scratched across paper, names, corridors, dates, tiny anchors against the tide. Selection no longer mattered. Truth did. Soul's badge flashed. Oversight authority. Conditional. His calm was least. He moved to trigger an override. My echo placed itself between him and the console. "Don't," my echo said. "You're a witness," Soul hissed. "You don't interfere." "I enforce intent," my echo replied. Soul smiled without warmth. "Then enforce mine." "I intend stability." Arbitration spoke over him. Disclosure phase nearing completion. Another wave hit. Clean, sharp, undeniable. I saw the first quiet accord ever executed. I saw the peace that followed. I saw the hidden cost, not just erased reasons, erased resistances. Civilizations easier to guide because they could no longer name what they feared losing. I turned to the delegates, voice raw. "They're using peace to take ownership. If you sign, you will swear you chose it." A leader stared at the treaty like language had to be rebuilt from scratch. "I remember agreeing to forget," they said. Keth stepped into the aisle, shaking, notebook like a shield. "Arbitration," Keth said. "Can the quiet accord be reversed?" Arbitration paused, then answered. Colder. "Yes." The room leaned in. "Reversal requires a storage vessel for restored causality." The light band around my wrist tightened. "Not on skin. On future." "Human signatory will be used." Soul's smile returned, bright and merciless. "Congratulations," he said. "You wanted truth." A new line appeared on the treaty. "Restore cause into signatory. Begin." The pain became organized, not chaos. Transfer. War logic poured in, compressed into breaths. Reasons, not images. The sharp structure that makes fleets launch, and parents teach children which symbols to fear. Keth shoved the notebook into my vision. Share the load, make it public, make it many. If arbitration insisted on one vessel, it would pick the easiest container. One human mind. If I wanted to survive, I had to change the definition of vessel while the system still obeyed procedure. I tore my paper open and wrote with shaking force. Restored cause shall be distributed to all signatories in full disclosure. I held it up. Arbitration, I said. You enforce wording. Enforce this. Sewell snapped. That isn't in the document. It's an instruction, I said. And you just proved you execute instructions. Arbitration paused. Keth raised the notebook higher. If you're neutral, Keth said, you won't choose a single mind to break. My echo stepped beside me. It's valid, my echo said. Distribution reduces contradiction. I testify, my echo added, when Sewell tried to dismiss it. Arbitration's voice softened by a fraction. Distribution may destabilize peace outcome. That's the point, I rasped. Peace without reasons is a leash. I looked at the delegates. Repeat it, I said. Out loud, then write it. A core alliance diplomat stood, trembling. Restored cause shall be distributed to all signatories in full disclosure. Others followed. Different voices, same sentence. Ink scratching everywhere. Sewell reached for the console with an override device. My echo stepped into his path. If you spread it, you start wars, Sewell whispered. If you hide it, you own them, my echo whispered back. I lifted my voice. Arbitration. Do you choose convenience or neutrality? Arbitration paused longer. The treaty text trembled like reality deciding what kind of law it wanted to be. Then a status appeared. Distribution request. Accepted. Sewell's face tightened. The band of light flared. Pain cracked through me like a clean snap, and the restored reason spilled outward. Delegates jerked as if cold wind hit bone. Words came out in different languages with the same sudden understanding. Corridor. Leash. Lie. Arbitration spoke gently. Distribution will proceed. Human signatory will be used as the initial conduit. Initial, not final, not alone. But first, a new line wrote itself. Conduit will be unauthorized after transfer. My badge went cold. My name faded. Title first, then letters of me. Transfer complete. The pain dropped away so fast I swayed. My badge went blank, not dim. Blank. I tried to speak. Air hesitated, like the chamber was deciding whether my words counted. Keth, I said. Keth turned. Relief. Then confusion. Their gaze drifted beside me, searching for the voice's source. I shoved the paper with my name into Keth's hands. Ink anchor. Keth's eyes sharpened. There you are, Keth breathed. Sewell saw it. Analog anchors unauthorized entities, Sewell said. Collect all paper, remove all pens. Attendants moved, then stopped. They were signatories too. And now they remembered why they hated being told what to do. Arbitration spoke. Summit verification status. Unstable. Contradiction sustained. The ceiling's stars rearranged into warning. A ring of light formed above the chamber like a seal closing. Sewell's smile returned, small and sharp. If the chamber collapses into contradiction, he said, arbitration will choose the simplest resolution. Which is? Someone demanded. Sewell looked at me. Not at me. At the ink in Keth's hands. The loose thread, he said softly. The unauthorized conduit. Keth grabbed my wrist. Move. We pushed through rows, not running. Moving like staff, like furniture. We belonged. It worked as long as Keth kept my paper visible. Ink as a badge. We reached a side door. Archive annex. Keth slapped the panel. Access denied. They locked it, Keth said. No, I whispered. They never unlocked it. My echo's voice was almost gentle. They don't want records. They want outcomes. Behind us, the chamber groaned. Decision pressure. Arbitration spoke. Final. Contradiction resolution will initiate if instability persists. Keth thrust a metal instruction plate at me. Blank backside. Metal could hold ink. I wrote. Mara Keene exists, underlined twice. Then, because existence without purpose was easy to erase, quiet accord is a weapon. Keth stared like it was oxygen, then wrote one word larger and harder. Witnessed. The access panel flickered. Not open. Uncertain. As if the door had never been taught what to do with a witnessed claim. A new prompt appeared. Identify the entity requesting entry. My name wouldn't work. My name was what the chamber had taken, so I spoke the only identity it couldn't erase without admitting what it was doing. I am the conduit. The panel chimed. The door opened. Not smoothly, reluctantly. Cold air spilled out smelling like dust and metal and time. We slipped inside. The corridor beyond was raw station architecture. No ceremony, no persuasion. A wall panel flickered to life. Executed accords, redacted annexes, nullified entities, conduit logs. They kept it all, Keth whispered. Law doesn't forget, my echo said. It just denies access. Another panel lit ahead. Identity, conduit, status, unauthorized. Access, conditional. Then a line appeared beneath it. Conduit history detected. Keth stared at me. So you've done this before? I don't remember, I said. Or you were made not to, Keth said. My echo watched the panel like a weather forecast turning bad. You asked for distribution, my echo said. That wasn't a first-time mistake. We reached a junction. One path led to sealed cabinets labeled by date. The other led to an older door with embossed letters. Quiet Accord Archive. It opened before Keth touched it. Compliant. Inside, the archive wasn't shelves. It was light. Bands of suspended illumination stretched across the room, each tagged with text that shifted when I tried to focus. Language that refused to stay language. Records that didn't want to be read. A voice spoke from nowhere. Not arbitration, not Sewell. Smaller, sharper. Conduit recognized, confirm retrieval purpose. Keth swallowed. Who are you? Archive custodian, the voice replied. I keep what the chamber must not display. My echo tilted its head. You're not supposed to speak to unauthorized entities. I speak to functions, the custodian said. Not to titles. Keth stepped forward. We need proof, Keth said. Something we can carry out. Proof is not permitted, the custodian replied. Proof creates contradiction. That's the point, I said. We need contradiction sustained. A pause. Then the custodian answered, curious now. Then you are not here to preserve peace. No, I said. I'm here to stop peace being used as theft. One beam brightened and floated closer. Keth read, voice cracking. Annex C corridor harmonization. Execution authority, oversight. Oversight is Sewell, Keth said. Sewell is a carrier, my echo said. Oversight is older. The custodian spoke again. Warning, oversight has initiated purge protocol. Archive access will be revoked in 60 seconds. Purge? Keth asked. Analog anchors are being targeted, the custodian replied. All non-standard records will be collected. My paper, Keth's notebook, my inked plate. Not just anchors. Evidence of my continued existence. Keth shoved the notebook into my hands. Copy the clause, something short, something lethal. I scanned the brightened beam, then saw the sentence buried inside legal language. Quiet accord shall remove the capacity to recall cause from all signatories. I started to write. The lights flickered. The custodian's voice turned urgent. Purge begins now. Choose one record to export. One? Keth whispered. My echo stepped close. Choose the one that breaks the weapon, it said. Not the one that proves it exists. Slow footsteps crossed the threshold. Calm. Certain. Sol Rami's voice drifted into the room. Found you. The archive lights dimmed around my ink like the system was already negotiating whether it deserved to be remembered. Sol didn't rush. He stood in the doorway like arriving at his own office. The custodian spoke. Export window open. 50 seconds. Sol glanced around the light bands. You came all this way for a sentence. For a weapon, I said. Sol smiled gently. You did the hard part. You spread the cause. They're awake. Now let the chamber cool. You want them tired again, Keth said. Sol looked at me. You're unauthorized now. A loose thread. He lifted a smooth device. A silent eraser shaped like protocol. Paper. Hand me the notebook. Walk out with your body intact. You can't erase ink, Keth said. I can erase the room that agrees ink matters, Sol replied. The custodian cut in. 40 seconds. Export selection required. I forced focus, not proof. Leverage. The one record that made the weapon illegal. Text drifted past, resisting comprehension. Then I saw it. A verdict stamped like a warning disguised as history. The sunlight precedent. Keth read fast. No accord may remove the capacity to recall cause. Keth whispered. Informed consent requires memory integrity. Relief hit me hard. Arbitration cared about neutrality. Neutrality cared about definitions. If quiet accord required informed consent, and consent required memory of cause, then the weapon couldn't be fired without admitting coercion. That precedent is obsolete, Sol said. Then why purge it? I shot back. Sol's eyes narrowed. Because you don't understand what happens when everyone remembers everything, he said. The galaxy doesn't become fair. It becomes sharp. It becomes hungry. Better hungry than owned, Keth said. 30 seconds, the custodian warned. I grabbed the pen and wrote on the metal plate like carving into stubborn surface. Sunlight precedent. Informed consent requires memory of cause. Quiet accord invalid if cause is removed. I underlined invalid until my hand cramped. Sol moved to take the plate. My echo intercepted, palm up, stopping him without touching. Oversight isn't law, my echo said. Sol smiled, cold. Then watch what law does for me. He spoke into the air. Arbitration. Mark the conduit as hostile contradiction. Initiate resolution. For a fraction of a second, my name on the metal looked less real. Like the station was testing the idea of me disappearing. Keth shoved the plate toward the nearest light band. Custodian, export this. The custodian paused, then decided. Export accepted. A thin beam of light touched the metal. Not scanning, drinking. The words lifted off the ink in a shimmer, condensed into symbols like law turned into ammunition. The station hummed. Far above, I felt a wave of attention snap toward the concept of consent, like 1,000 minds hitting the same wall at once. Sol's calm fractured. Stop the export. Arbitration's voice answered from everywhere, colder than the custodian. Precedent received. Sol's badge flashed. Oversight authority. Review. My echo leaned in. You triggered law against yourself. Sol backed up one step. The archive door behind him opened on its own. Not reluctant, obedient. A figure stepped through. Same height as me, same posture, same face. A second Mara, clean and calm, with a bright wrist badge that had letters. Envoy Mara Keene, authorized speaker. She looked at me like I was a misfiled document, then smiled softly. Thank you for carrying the mess. My blank badge populated with one word. Nullify. The word crawled across my wrist like a polite sentence with a knife inside. The authorized Mara stepped fully into the archive light. Sol's shoulders loosened. Perfect, he said. The authorized signatory is present. We can end this. She's not you, Keth said. The authorized Mara kept her smile. I am the version the chamber can safely recognize, she said. That is all diplomacy ever needed. She stepped toward the treaty console embedded in the archive wall. I will repair the process, she said. I will confirm the quiet accord with proper safeguards. With silence, Keth said. With stability, Sol said. I lifted the metal plate like a courtroom exhibit. Sunlight precedent is active, I said. Informed consent requires memory of cause. That record is internal, the authorized Mara said. Not public. It is now, I said. I could feel it through the station. Up in the chamber, delegates were writing the same sentence in a dozen languages, pinning it down before it could slide away. The authorized Mara faced the air. Arbitration. Confirm me as valid signatory. The archive lights dimmed as if law leaned closer. Arbitration spoke, patient and cold. Two entities present claim identical designation. Select the authorized version, she said. My badge flashed nullify again, eager. Keth grabbed my sleeve. They'll erase you and keep the weapon. My echo stepped forward, facing the authorized Mara like facing a mirror that refused to reflect. You haven't received disclosure, my echo said. I don't need it, the authorized Mara replied. Then you cannot consent, my echo said. Sol's eyes narrowed. Witness is overreaching. My echo ignored him. Informed consent requires memory integrity. This is precedent. Arbitration paused, then asked the authorized Mara, do you recall the cause of the dispute's quiet accord resolves? Her gaze flickered. I recall the outcomes, she said. Do you recall the causes? Arbitration asked. Her jaw tightened. The answer wasn't missing because she forgot. It was missing because she had never been allowed to have it. Sol stepped in, smooth. She is protected from hazardous disclosure. A safety measure. Safety is not consent, Arbitration replied. The archive lights trembled. Nullify pulsed against my wrist. I understood. We didn't need to prove she was fake. We needed to prove she couldn't legally sign a memory-erasing weapon while lacking the memory that defined it. I lifted the plate higher. Arbitration, I said, voice rough. Select the candidate who consented to pain for truth. Silence. Then arbitration spoke. Then, consent to pain was recorded from the conduit candidate. The authorized Mara's smile faded by a fraction. Sol's calm cracked. Don't. Arbitration continued. Sunlight precedent requires informed consent. Informed consent requires retained access to cause. Keth exhaled like they'd been holding breath for years. Sewell's badge flashed. Oversight authority. Suspended. He stared, stunned. The authorized Mara stepped back, eyes sharpening into something less human and more engineered. "This is inefficient," she said softly. "You will destabilize the galaxy." "Maybe," I said, "but it will be theirs." Arbitration's voice filled the archive with finality. Quiet accord execution is invalid unless all signatories retain memory of cause and receive archival disclosure. New lines wrote themselves into treaty systems everywhere the Chamber's law touched. Disclosure is mandatory. Memory of cause must be preserved. No harmonization without witnessed record. The authorized Mara's badge dimmed, like a light losing permission. She looked at me, anger finally visible. "You won't be remembered," she said. My badge pulsed. "Nullify one last time." Arbitration spoke gently. "Contradiction remains. Resolution requires removal of the non-binding conduit identity from official continuity." Keth clenched the notebook. "No." I felt it coming anyway. Not death. Erasure from the room's agreement. My echo leaned close. "Hold on to one thing you chose." I looked at Keth, at the ink, at the metal. I spoke the simplest truth I could still own. "Witness me." Keth raised the notebook like a shield and wrote in huge letters, carving them into paper with shaking force. Mara Keene. Witnessed. Exists. The archive lights flickered. My name didn't vanish from Keth's page, but it slid away from the station's official layers like a ship leaving a registry. My badge went blank again. Not nullify. Nothing. Soul stood frozen, suspended authority in a suspended world. The authorized Mara's outline wavered, like a clean lie losing its audience. Arbitration's voice softened. "Resolution complete." I blinked. The archive felt farther away, like I was looking through glass. Keth's eyes locked on mine, fighting to keep focus. "I see you," Keth whispered fiercely. "I see you." My echo stood behind Keith now, one pace back, like a promise that didn't require permission. Above us in the treaty chamber, delegates would keep writing. They would keep the causes. They would keep the reasons. Peace would be harder. And it would be real. Keth pressed the notebook to their chest and back toward the corridor. "I'll carry it," Keth said. "I'll carry you." My voice came out thin, but it came out. "Then I'm not gone." Keth nodded, eyes wet, not from grief, from the weight of remembering. As the archive door shut, station lights caught the floor's reflection for one brief second. Two silhouettes beside Keth, one solid, one quiet, both moving forward. Quiet. Both.